In honor of Military Appreciation Month, Verizon thought of a lot of different ways we could show our appreciation, like rolling out the red carpet, giving you your own personal marching band, or throwing a bumping shindig. At Verizon, we're doing all that in the form of special military offers. That's why, this month only, we're giving military and veteran families a $200 Verizon gift card and a phone on us with a select trade-in and a new line on select unlimited plans. Think of it as our way of flying a squadron of jets overhead while launching fireworks. Now that's what we call a celebration, because we're proud to serve you. Visit your local Verizon store to learn more. $200 Verizon gift card requires smartphone purchase $799.99 or more with new line on eligible plan. Gift card sent within 8 weeks after receipt of claim. Phone offer requires $799.99 purchase with new smartphone line on unlimited ultimate or postpaid unlimited plus. Minimum plan $80 a month with autopay plus taxes and fees for 36 months. Less $800 trade-in or promo credit applied over 36 months. 0% APR. Trade-in must be from Apple, Google, or Samsung. Trade-in and additional terms apply.
Memorial Day doorbuster deals are here at Lowe's. Right now, Rewards members save $80 on the Master Forge 4-burner gas grill, now just $149. Plus, Rewards members save $900 on the Lowe's exclusive Hisense French door refrigerator, now only $999. Lowe's, we help, you save. Valid through 5/26. Selection varies by location. While supplies last. See Lowe's.com for more details. Program subject to terms and conditions. Details at Lowe's.com/terms. Subject to change.
Hi guys, welcome to this week's episode of Heavy Metal Tones with me, your podcast host, Tony Evans. This week is as the winters draw in here in Australia, particularly here in Canberra, which can be quite cold if you don't know the island of Australia overseas there. If you're not quite sure and you think it's all sunshine and beaches, well no, we're inland in a valley, and it can get very cold here. It can get very hot as well, but it can get very cold. So the nights are drawing in. And I always reach for music that sort of is seasonal. I'm not a completely seasonal music listener, but I do tend to get a little bit I sort of yearn for some of those deeper, dark and wintry pieces of music when it's cold outside. Let's be honest, do we really want to listen to a song about Kokomo and beaches and palm trees and all that stuff when you know you've got 3 months of minus something degrees ahead of you, and it's not that particularly pleasant. So for me, winter is always quite doomy. I do love to reach for my classic Doom albums. Now I've done an episode about Doom, as it's called Doom Doom Doom. We're all doomed. Way back, I will put the link in the show notes below for that episode number, where I sort of scoot over the genre of Doom and name a few names. Well, I thought I'd land on my favourite Doom band and my favourite Doom album, and it's an album that can polarise some fans of this band, can also polarise people of the music in general, because you either love it or you hate it. There isn't really much in between with this particular album. I, myself, as you can understand, is in the love part. There are bits of it, and you'll hear me talk about it. It's not all sunshine and roses. There are moments where I will be positively negative about it. But the album itself means a lot to me, because the band is Candlemass, as you would have seen by the episode name. So no real big mystery there. The album is Ancient Dreams. Now, I first came across Candlemass. I've mentioned this before on shows before, and interviews before. I came across them late 89, early 1990, when my friend Crazy Melvin, I had two friends, Melvin, one called Crazy Melvin, one Normal Melvin. I'm still in contact with Normal Melvin. I have no idea where Crazy Melvin is. Who knows? If you listen to this, Crazy Mel, you know who I'm talking about. Anyway, he had his ear to the ground musically, really, really on point. He knew what was going on. He was just really brilliant when it came to that kind of thing. One afternoon, I remember him telling me you want to come to this gig tomorrow? It was like, I think it was a Saturday morning or Saturday afternoon, and it was at the Tufnell Park Dome. And I had no idea. He had this black and white flyer, and he showed me it, and I had no idea about any of the names on that flyer, but it looked the kind of thing that I would enjoy. It was sort of DIY. It had sort of, that kind of metal sort of writing on it, and it all crumpled up in his pocket. And I thought, well, why not? And it was like £5 or something, ridiculously cheap. So we turned up. We didn't have tickets. We bought them on the door. We turned up and we queued down the side of the Tufnell Park Dome. Anyone that has been to Tufnell Park and knows where the dome is, it's on a crossroads. And it was really just near the train station and near a pub. And it was really, really cold, I remember. And I was at that time, I was going through a phase of wearing a big, long, ex-army Second World War trench coat, or a greatcoat, as they used to be called, with my steel-capped toe-cap boots, my skin-tight blue jeans, my long, lovely hair, and at that time I didn't have many band shirts because I couldn't afford them, so I just wore a white T-shirt which I'd written all over. When I think about it now, it feels a bit cheesy, but back then, hey, we did. I got picked on a bit in line, I have to say, when people were coming up with their brand new leathers on and their battle jackets, and they were like, "What do you think you are?" And I thought, well, I'm not going to... At that time, I was not bothered about my looks. It didn't bother me. I had a silver ring on each finger. I remember that. And sometimes 2 on each finger, depending on the day I felt like. And hair down to my waist. So, really sort of an interesting sight. So we went in to Tufnell Park Dome. This is quite a squalid, at that time, little dark venue. I'm not sure how much it holds. It didn't feel like it held that much. I remember the bands themselves were on the side, and they had trestle tables, and they were just sitting there at the side talking to people. And I think we might have missed the very first support band. I think, maybe, I'm not quite sure. I do remember seeing, I think it was Candlemass. Now, I'm going to maybe misremember this, but I think it was Candlemass. And there was also Entombed was on, and Saint Vitus. They were on the lineup. So I remember talking to the guitarist from Entombed at his table, and he gave me a signed flyer, and I don't have that anymore. That got lost years ago. But I remember it going off, absolutely nuts. And I remember Melvin leaving early. This was hilarious. This, Satanist nutter, a friend of mine, leaving early because his jeans got dirty. He got like some bubble gum or something on his jeans, and he was really annoyed, and he left. And I thought, okay, I'll stay here, no problem. And now this is where my memory gets a little hazy, people, because I was steaming back a few of the amber nectars, the neck oil, the raising the elbow. I was having a drink, and I remember buying a pint for the lead singer, the then lead singer of Candlemass, Messiah Marcolin, who we'll talk about later on in the band. But I'm not sure if that was the following year when I saw him with Memento Mori at the Tufnell Park Dome. I've consequently emailed the band to ask them this question, and they're adamant that he wasn't the lead singer at the Tufnell Park Dome in '89. So I'm a bit confused. I definitely saw Candlemass. I just can't remember if it was Messiah Marcolin as the lead singer or the following singer. Okay, so at the moment, let's just imagine that I'm correct and it's Messiah Marcolin, and I bought him a pint. That means I bought him a couple of pints over the time, because I definitely bought him a drink at the Memento Mori gig as well, which is the band he formed after leaving Candlemass. Anywho, it was just funny that this hardcore Satanist metal punk of the 70s, this real sort of die-in-the-wall nutter, decides to go home because his jeans got dirty at a gig. It always amused me. I remember getting into the mosh and getting jumped on by a guy with a huge Mohican, and he was wearing all white. He leapt straight onto me. It was from the stage dives. It was a really fascinating. It was a great show, and one of those sort of life affirming moments where this is where you want to be. This is me, right? I'm at home here. So that's why Candlemass and Messiah Marcolin are really important to me. But when I did buy Messiah a pint, I do remember he was wearing his cowl, and I said, "Great gig, can I get you a beer?" And he went, "Duh." And I gave him the beer. I bought the beer for him, and he picked up. He's a massive man. He's huge. He's a man mountain, right? He's a big unit. And he held this pint glass like it was a mug of tea, and he backed it, put it down his throat as in, like, I reckon, 2 seconds, and he just wiped his mouth, smiled at me, and walked off. And I never saw him again, because why would I? But it was one of those moments where you just go, yeah, how cool is that? And I always have that memory. So this album, and it was touring at the time, Ancient Dreams, which is the album we're talking about. Now, Messiah Marcolin is on this album, but I don't know, he did leave. There was some sort of issues with the touring with him, and I'm sure. Again, that's why I'm having trouble memorizing it or thinking that's correct. I don't want to give the wrong information out. But I was just trying to think, what was I there? Did I see it? Was it him? And it was at one point either Memento Mori or Candlemass. Either way, I'm not quite sure. Anyway, so Candlemass from Sweden. Now they formed in early to mid 80s, and this album here is their third album. Okay, their first album, which is an absolute classic, Epicus Dumicus Metallicus, is an absolute. It's one of those albums in the Doom world, in heavy metal really, that you have to have in your collection or have at least heard. To be honest, it's a moment in time that you really shouldn't miss. Up until this point, they recorded, as I said, Epicus Dumicus Metallicus in 86. Then in 1987 was Nightfall, and of course 88 was this one, Ancient Dreams, and 89 was Tales of Creation, the last album with Messiah Marcolin at the helm. Now, the band itself was formed by bassist and songwriter, and I'm going to say this, and please, these are Swedish names, so if I get them wrong, I absolutely I don't mean to, my lovely Swedish friends. Leif Edling, so Leif Edling. Now, he's a bass player, songwriter, composer, just an all-round really clever dude and knows his metal inside and out. The band went on to record 13 studio albums, 7 live albums, 7 compilation albums, 1 box set, and 22 singles and EPs, 4 demo albums, and 2 DVDs. And they're still going. It was a genre that, if it got its name wholly from that first album, Epicus Dumicus Metallicus. Of course, Doom had been around for some time with, like, Black Sabbath had sort of brought it to the fore, but it didn't have a name as such until bands like Pentagram, St. Vitus, Trouble, bands like that, they created this slow, dirgy, operatic sort of, this metal that was a complete opposite to the stuff that was being played, the speed, the thrash, the extremity. This was more heavy in a sedate way. It's very strange when to talk about it that way, but it is. It's more operatic. It's much more intellectual, if that's a wrong way. I don't know if it's a wrong way to say it, right? But the band itself, with many different lineups, of course, have been around since '84. The original lineup with after Messiah joined, because he came on later on a little bit later on into the life of the band. Was 84 to 94, and then they had a hiatus, and 97 to 2002, and another hiatus, and then 2004 to now. And so it's quite a up and down band history wise, right? I mean, when Leif left his previous band, he joined and formed Candlemass. He brought Jonathan Longvist on vocals and Matt Mooper Berkman and Klaus Bergwall on guitars, and that was the first lineup complete. Obviously, after debuting with Epicus Dumicus Metallicus in 1986, making a milestone in the Doom scene, And not long after Longvist, the lead singer, left and was replaced by Messiah Marcolin, as we mentioned. And by 1987, Nightfall recordings, Bergmore and Erstorm had left, and Jan Lind joined as the new drummer, and Lars Johnson was added on the guitars following the completion of that album. Now, a lot of people do say that Nightfall is where it really starts to become doomy, even heavier than Doomicus. I disagree, and I say that Candlemass's real stamp on the genre here is with Ancient Dreams. It's very. This album is, I'm going to say this. This album is it divides fans because it's quite long. It's 50 odd minutes long. Each song is around about 7 minutes long, and some of them, yes, I will admit to when we get to chatting track by track that I feel that some of it should be, could have been shortened, maybe even not on the album to some extent. But that, I think, is again a moot point. It's really up to you once you listen to it. Now, Ancient Dreams being their third album, it was released in 1988 but reissued in 2001. The cover art is wonderful. It's by a painter called Thomas Gale. He was an English-born American painter, founder of the Hudson River School of Art, and he basically he's famous for romantic, wild landscapes and some almost sort of alien-esque kind of landscapes when it was, considering he lived from 1801 to 1848, so it was a long time ago. Very much a romanticist. The piece of art is actually called Youth, and it's part of the series of Voyage of Life. So we go and have a look at that. It's actually some beautiful pieces of work by him. So it really does. It does emulate the music in it, because the music can be like being in an art gallery. It can be like moving from one heavy, oversaturated Dutch painting where the veneer has gone too yellow to another one. It can feel that way sometimes, like you're almost chewing the canvas or chewing the scenery with this album. But if you stick with it, you'll find moments of real joy and real catharsis. I found with this album, lyrically, it's not taking you on any journey spiritually. It's not an in-depth look at Leif's mental life or his emotional life. This is songs about wizards, but we don't, in inverted commas, demons in mirrors and fantasy. Let's just say fantasy. It's very much castles and cowls and grey skies and all that kind of doomy stuff that you get. We're not going to change the world here lyrically. It's not suddenly going to talk about some hidden meaning of nuclear war or famine or feminism or anything like that in these lyrics. None of that's going to happen. You're going to be taken on a ride sonically, which will stretch you. So you don't need to be stretched lyrically. This some sing-along parts, yes, but mainly it's what it is. It's chocolate box lyrics. It is all down really to the music and to the way that Messiah sings. It's something really special. Messiah has a voice quite like anyone else, and when you hear him on this, and I think this is his pinnacle album with the band, because he hits some notes and he has some textures in the vocal lines here that are almost unbelievable in that respect, that you're hearing this on a heavy metal album. I mean, nowadays we have symphonic metal and we have all this symphonic death and where we have all this kind of operatic vocals, but we didn't have it back then. Yes, you had Halford and you had Dickinson and you had like that with their shrills and their shrieks, their new wave of British heavy metal, but they were one-offs. This is almost all the way through. This the way he holds these notes is quite superb. So, on that note, very aptly. We will go and have a break, have a cup of tea, have a Kit Kat, and then we will come back and chat about the album Ancient Dreams. There are some things in there I would like to talk about. This is going to be more about the musical side of it. As I said before, lyrically, it's all a little bit, it's that fantasy feel. We might talk about some of the lyrics. We might go across there, maybe. We don't know. I don't know. It seems how I feel. But let's go through track for track in this amazing third album by Candlemass, Ancient Dreams. See you on the other side. Bye for now.
In honor of Military Appreciation Month, Verizon thought of a lot of different ways we could show our appreciation, like rolling out the red carpet, giving you your own personal marching band, or throwing a bumping shindig. At Verizon, we're doing all that in the form of special military offers. That's why, this month only, we're giving military and veteran families a $200 Verizon gift card and a phone on us, with a select trade-in and a new line on select unlimited plans. Think of it as our way of flying a squadron of jets overhead while launching fireworks. Now that's what we call a celebration, because we're proud to serve you. Visit your local Verizon store to learn more. $200 Verizon gift card requires smartphone purchase $799.99 or more with new line on eligible plan. Gift card sent within 8 weeks after receipt of claim. Phone offer requires $799.99 purchase with new smartphone line on unlimited ultimate or postpaid unlimited plus. Minimum plan $80 a month with autopay plus taxes and fees for 36 months. Less $800 trade-in or promo credit applied over 36 months. 0% APR. Trade-in must be from Apple, Google, or Samsung. Trade-in and additional terms apply.
Memorial Day doorbuster deals are here at Lowe's. Right now, rewards members save $80 on the Master Forge 4-burner gas grill, now just $149. Plus, rewards members save $900 on the Lowe's exclusive Hisense French door refrigerator, now only $999. Lowe's, we help, you save. Valid through 5/26. Selection varies by location. While supplies last. See Lowe's.com for more details. Program subject to terms and conditions. Details at Lowe's.com/terms. Subject to change.
Right, welcome back to part 2 of this chat about Candlemass's Ancient Dreams, their third studio album released in 1988. On November the 23rd, it was released and it was recorded in August of 88. Now, this album itself you can get it on 2 versions. If you get the vinyl version, you won't get, not the original release, you will not get the bonus Black Sabbath medley at the end, which we're going to talk about. But the CD version, which of course was very prominent in '88, you will get that on the end of it. If you go on to any of your streaming platforms, you will get that reissue version, that special edition easily, because that's what they do on streaming platforms, much to my chagrin, as I have talked about before. But I want to talk about the Black Sabbath medley at the end because it's really worth having a listen to. Now, the personnel on this album: Messiah Marcolin on vocals, Lars Johansson on lead guitar, Matt Bjorkman on rhythm guitar, Leif Edling on bass, and Jan Linden on drums. Now, Lind, L-I-N-D-H. If I've got that wrong, pronounced wrong, I apologise. I really don't mean to offend anyone. It's always a minefield with these things, isn't it not? Anyway, that's the lineup of the band itself. The tracks themselves, there are, as I said, they're quite long in their... None of them are going to be little ditties for you to just sit back and think you can get through them pretty quickly. There are a long tracks, on average 7 minutes. Now, these days, as metal fans, we think to ourselves, that doesn't seem too long, wow, 7 minutes, when you think that Maiden often put out 8 to 10 minute to 12-minute tracks. This wasn't the case back in 88. You have to remember that we are in the dying throes of the punk movement, the mixtures of all the different genres. Thrash is coming through. You have hardcore there. Everything is fast, quick, immediate. And so to sort of look back and listen to an album where you do have to give, like, for instance, the Cry from the Crypt is 7 minutes 24. They're not songs that you can just walk away from quickly. Now, some of them, yes, I think, as I said before in the first part, could be edited down a little. I would be the first to admit that I think that is the case. But that's for a different time. Let's get to that as we get to it. So the track listing on the album is Mirror Mirror, first track. We have Cry from the Crypt, Darkness in Paradise, Incarnation of Evil, Bearer of Pain, Ancient Dreams, The Bells of Acheron, and Epistle number 81. It's the last track on the genuine tracks of the album, but there is all close at the end, as I said, with the bonus track. It's a Black Sabbath medley with a lot of Sabbath songs covered across their oeuvre. But let's get jumping into Mirror Mirror, which is at 6 minutes 15. Right. I had a friend or an acquaintance for many years who was really into Doom, and it got me really back into it in quite a way when I came to Australia. In a sort of, when I was here, it was about the early 2000s, when I was hanging around with Steve, and he played Mirror Mirror to me for the first time in such a long time. But he was a guitarist and a really gifted guitarist, so he was playing it on the riff to me, and he once said, "This is the greatest riff in all of heavy metal," and I was, you scoff at this, but actually, this riff itself, the opening riff for Mirror Mirror, typifies Doom in an absolute nutshell. Is it the greatest riff of all time? Very arguably, also subjective. I think it's the best Doom riff of all, yes. It has a chugginess to it that just draws you in. And Messiah's of operatic prowess hits you straight away on this particular track. It's not like anything you would ever have heard up to that point as a young man or anyone in 1988. You would have, you were used to the speed. The speed is gone. Instead of an ocean of speed, we have a sea of aggression and slow grinding Doom-like riffage. It's like two worlds of colliding in this particular track, and this album in general. It's like opera meets metal, symphony meets opera meets metal meets rock meets. It's just like Black Sabbath is suddenly become like, I don't know, an opera. It's quite a sonically challenging album, and this song is one of the ones that really, I'm glad they opened with Mirror Mirror, because it's the strongest on the album. I think it's a song that, if I was to take away a track from this album and say which is the one that I feel the most passionate about, Mirror Mirror would be it. It's good sing-along. It has these sort of windswept tundra-style coldness to it, this sort of ancientness, mouldering, sort of rotten leaves and detritus of humanity lying waste to this magic mirror. This person who's obsessed by the mirror. It's full of mysticism and all that sort of stuff. It does, though, change. Now, it start off chuggy chug. It's really wonderful riff, and the great lyric, the great chorus, Mirror Mirror. It's beautifully brought to life by Messiah and the band itself. But about 3 minutes 40 in, there's a little sonic change, and this really lovely solo comes in. Now, the solos on this album are by no means the typical solos of the 80s, late 80s. They're not Steve Vai, shredding nightmares. They're not Eddie Van Halen's Million Notes in Look How Fast My Fingers Can Move. These are sort of atonal, cold, angular stabs beat out from the veil of darkness that the Doom riffs are made. It's like a way of just relieving the pressure. It's like squeezing a boil, if you will, to relieve that pressure just for a moment, and then it builds up again. It's a fantastic track. It just is doom personified. Doom personified. Okay, and the ending has this ominous whisper at the end. So the whispering. This is a motif that they bring throughout their albums, and they particularly on this album. There's a little of that going on where, as it fades out, the lyric is whispered in an ethereal kind of quite a terrifying way. Actually, it does make you feel a little bit on edge as it whispers in your ear as it fades out to the next track, which is a Cry from the Crypt, which is 7 minutes 24. Now, this is not my favorite track on the album. I'll be honest with you. It's 2 songs in, and it's the second song in, and I'm like, well, okay. This I think could have been pared back. This I think critically I would have pared it back, taken 1 or 2 minutes of the riffs out. Probably didn't need to be 7 minutes 24, but it's there. It's in the package, is what it was, and we'll live with it. And I actually, it's not by any means a terrible. It's brilliant. I just think it's a little too long. Now this is Doom by the opening. It has before you even heard it. It's going to be doomy, that opening slow, textured lethargy. There's this riff, unlike Mirror Mirror, it moves around a little more. It's not as locked to the bar as Mirror Mirror's riff. It's a little bit more dynamic. Messiah's vocals are some solid here. They're very heavy. They still hit those high notes, and they're still operatic, but it's dense. There's a real kind of the storytelling here is a little bit more well done. It's a little bit more mature, right? The drums and bass and guitars are really drudging, really sort of almost like you're wading through treacle, if can imagine that image, or through quicksand almost. Not that sounds like a negative. I don't mean it a negative. That's the way that they produce it. And I'll say it before and I'll say it again. It's very, very difficult to write music that is slower. You can hide a lot with speed and with jiggery pokery, right? Lots of jiggery of the pokery going on in modern metal and in metal back then, particularly the fast stuff. This slower, more thought out, more it's sincere riffage. You really can't hide the drops or the lack of quality in the riff, or the misbeat on the drums, or the bass part missing, or the vocal not quite attaching to it. It has a solo in it that's very cold, as I mentioned before, but it's almost incongruous to the track itself, because the track itself is quite somber and sincere, but then the solo is a little bit of a lighter refrain. I said, that sort of prick of pressure, that boil bursting moment, but they don't hold back. Okay, it's a big lavish number. It is again the sort of thing that you would imagine to hear on an operatic stage. It really feels like it's being sometimes held back, sometimes like a big dog on a leash. This track, sometimes you feel it can let go. It's gonna go, and then no, it doesn't. It's edging itself, if you know what I mean. Those that know what that means, I won't explain anymore. Yes, it's edging itself. It's almost going to, and then it doesn't. And that's for me, it's saving grace as a track on this album, is that sort of not quite sure where it's going. Will it go? It's gone. Oh no, no, it hasn't. But I still think maybe a minute or 2 in the middle could have been pared back. 6 minutes of this would have probably made it one of the best songs on the album. But I think it's overdriven very, very slightly. And then we get to very quickly, with a Darkness in Paradise. This follows with exactly the same motif as Cry for the Crypt, as if it was written at the same time, as if it was one piece of music. It not for long though. So it goes in, it flows really well into it, but it's very depressive. It's very low key, and until Messiah's vocals come in, Messiah doesn't sing songs that uplift you. His vocal is not uplifting you. It is uplifting because the beauty and the quality and the timbre in his voice is something to behold. And the pacing that he can take along with the music behind it. He doesn't try and outrun the backing music. He doesn't even try to overtake. He just sits with it really, really well. There's a bit of malice and a bit of soulfulness. Very lot of soulness in this his voice. Very rounded. The riff itself is a bit more. Is it lighter when it gets to the riff? And the solo itself is not as out of place as the previous one felt. It sort of, because this song moves a bit more and it has a little bit of lightness to it, that you get that it's not as dark sonically. So it pierces that heaviness. It's a little bit of light relief because, 2 tracks going from Mirror Mirror to Cry from the Crypt. Even though this is heavy, you still need a little bit of light relief. And this one, again, sitting at 6 minutes 46 is the right length, I feel. It doesn't hang around. It does. Sometimes some of these tracks on this album, I would like it to open up more and be a little bit more, so maybe to explore more. But they do that on later albums. This is their earlier albums. I think Messiah's earns his fee here. What a set of lungs this man has, right? He can really sing. The band itself is brilliant, but then adding him on top just adds this kind of, I don't know, a dimension that other bands just didn't have at the time. And it's a sad shame that he didn't do more with the band. Although Memento Mori is still an amazing band if we get a chance to listen to those one day. So this is a bit of a even though it's called Darkness in Paradise, and of course you can take what you want about that lyric, you can understand it. It's probably about many things. I think it's about the sin of Adam and so on and so forth. But hey, again, when you hear the song, you'll understand lyrically. It's not complex, so I'm not going to dive into the lyrics in this episode. I really am not. I thought I won't. I was going to, but I'd rather talk about the music because really, you're not getting anything mind-blowingly wonderful, and I don't mean that to the lyric writers of this song because they are great lyrics. They're just not, they're not changing the world. Okay, then we get moving from that strangely dark and dynamic and movable piece of music, we get Incantation of Evil. Now, Incantation of Evil sits. Let me get my times for that. It's 7 minutes 19, so we've gone back to a slightly longer song. It's not using what is now cliche. Okay, this slowed down vocals with a sort of evil incantation at the beginning. If you've ever listened to Venom's At War with Satan, you will often hear that done then, where Kronos' vocals are slowed down and there's sort of, they've put lots of compression on, and he's speaking these evil incantations and building the atmosphere. So now it's cliche, but back then it probably wasn't so much cliche because it wasn't used as much. I mean, it's the sort of thing you'd hear on a lot of the black metal stuff that was coming out of Europe then, King Diamond and all that. But as I said, Venom. But it adds atmosphere, yes. And it starts that, and you think, okay, where are we going with here? This is dark. This is really sort of wintry and repressive. I'm loving this sort of, where is it going? And then suddenly you get a punishing, pile-driving riff that sort of, it punishes us into your mind. It's almost like it's there before you even hear it. It's a brilliant combination of solid drums, constant bass, and the guitar, which is sort of, it holds back the reins of Messiah for just long enough, and then let him go, and then he, like a dog on a leash, let off the leash, goes wild into the vocal line. of this this brilliant track. You know, and again with this album, I've mentioned this before, with lots of chugs. If you love a lot of chuggy music, this is the place to be. It's what makes Doom Doom. I've written Doom 101 in big red letters, and you know now it is 101 for Doom, but back then it was they were building their own genre. Yes, Doomicus Metallicus is, you know, the first of its kind, but this I feel is where it really took seed. You know, it's got tumbling, mature drums, a lot of palm muting guitars, full of drama, slow, menacing. There's no speedy solos here. It's very thought out. And the break, when it comes, with the solos that appear, are just enough, as I said, not to show off, not to try and be something they're not. It's just a delicious light note, like a sprinkling of salt on a bagel, or a cup of a spoon of brown sugar in your coffee. It's just a little bit of that touch on the top, which brings joy, and but it also gives you a talking point. There are a lot of music now, particularly when it comes to things like Doom, where they don't do that, and you know, from beginning to end, it's just sludge. Now that is a subgenre of Doom, sludge, and there is stoner Doom and all that kind of thing. This is trad Doom. This is really trad Doom. So it's a little bit more easier listening, you know, if you can sort of call it that way. So beautifully dramatic song, one of my favourite songs on the album. I really love the way that it mixes its paces. It doesn't, even for a long song, it doesn't feel like it hangs around. In fact, I think this does better than Cry from the Crypt, and it's not that much shorter. Then we get on to Bearer of Pain, my second favourite track on the album. It's slightly faster drumline, and the guitars feel like the veil has been lifted, and it has a, like, you know, there's a lift where we've had the heaviness. Suddenly the veil has been lifted. There's a bit of sunshine peeking through that altar window, that castle arrow slit, the dungeon grating. There's a little bit of that, which is for me a little bit more bit of relief. It still has the chugginess, but it's faster. There's a really good sing along with Messiah's chorus here. There's a great sing along. It's punctuated by some chaos. Some of the chaos in the guitar, it's like this atonal jazz style solos that sort of don't match the riffing, but then do in an odd way. It's really not stuck in one spot. It really pries its way through the murk and jumps out at you for that solo for just a second. These solos don't go on for long. They're maximum maybe 30 seconds. You know, they're not huge, long, sweeping, look at the size of my cock kind of solos. These are, we need to just add a little of lightness here. Let's just add a little of what is traditional, and let's do that. It's a fantastic change of pace, and 3 minutes in, you know, suddenly everything starts to ramp up. And what's wonderful about this is Messiah's vocals match the guitar line and the motif identically. So instead of fighting against it or playing on top of it, it's almost like Messiah is another instrument, and it just moves in a sort of organic, free way. It has to be heard to believe it. I really love the pace that they keep up on this album. It's so oppressive in some quarters, yet at the same time so light. There's the solo itself is I think he's tapping his solo at 4 minutes 20, which sort of adds a sort of odd beauty, an odd dynamism that you're not expected to hear as a listener of this album. You don't expect it, and when you get it, again, it's only short. But because they're short and they're few and far between, when they do arrive, you really appreciate them. You go, wow, this is what I call a solo, right? This is just what I want. I don't want Like what I loved about punk solos is they're quick, sharp, in and out. They're just adding a bit of dynamism, bit of fun, bit of movement, bit of a little bit of show off. Why not? Of course, look what I can do in this minor pentatonic scale or whatever. But I actually feel that it it adds, not, it's not a subtraction, and it's not a distraction. And then we have Ancient Dreams, the title track. Some people love this track. Some people absolutely hate it. I'm on the fence, to be honest with you, when it comes to this track. I'm on the fence. Now, the track itself, let's see the time. Track itself lasts for 7 minutes and 4 seconds. So quite a long track to almost finish this album out. It's slow. It can play a bit monotonous in the riffing. It's a bit quasi heavy metal sometimes, and first playthrough I wasn't overly sure. I remember when I first heard, I thought, okay, this is good, but maybe I've sort of had enough now. Can I have something different? But it's a slow starter. It really is a head swayer and a body mover. It does grab you after, I said, it's 7 odd minutes, so it can take 2 or 3 minutes for you to really warm into a lot of this particular music. And I think this particular track has that feel. It's quite sluggish. It's hard at first, but if after a few, a few listens, it does sort of grow on you a little. The solo itself is a bit of sedentary and glacial at times. The ending is a bit slow and grinding. It has a dark and deathly conclusion. And it is Doom 101. I keep saying that, but this feels like, hey, this is what we should be doing. This feels right for this album. Now, it's, for me, a minute or two shorter. Again, cold down a little bit, the perfect track. Still love it. It's mainly all killer no filler on this album. It's just the length of time that it needs to be. And then we get to Bells of Acheron, which is another one of my favourites on the album. Here comes some speed. We've gone from that dirge and heavy trawling of Ancient Dreams to the Bells of Acheron. Another one of my favourites. It's real rock and roll chugga-lugga feel to it, for as much rock and roll as you can on this particular type of album, this sound that this album has produced. Now, the band itself, I should say, didn't like the sound of this album. They didn't really enjoy the production of this album. They really sort of thought it was rushed to get it out for the American audience and for the American tour, but I actually really like the way the sound finished here. This is quite, as I said, for the album, it breaks a mold for Doom. It's a little bit faster. It has a real swagger to it, and I've heard it live a couple of times, and it's got a real mood lifter. It takes away from that sort of real open a vein kind of doominess that you get, and has this sort of tumble of drums and guitars and backing vocals, and Messiah on it is really just having, you can feel he's having fun here. The riff builds itself into a glorious sort of crashing on the rocks kind of feel. It breaks the tension like pouring, soap liquid onto an oil surface. It breaks that tension. It's got a lot of, the solos in this have a lot of feeling, but it's still without that sort of marauding dirginess and sense of dread that you get with this album. I would call the fun, and if you could see me doing it, I'm doing air quotes, fun track on the album, because this, for me, is the final great track on the album. We now move to a track, Epistle number 81. Now, this is based on a piece of classical music written by Carl Michael Beldman. He himself was a composer in the 1700s in Sweden. And I didn't write a lot about him because it's himself, that would be a whole podcast alone to talk about that. But he lived from 1740 to 1795. and he wrote a lot of these epistle pieces of music, which is quite dark and heavy classical music. And this is what this piece of music is based around. I haven't heard the actual epistle number 81, but I think this is sort of very, very, very closely written to it. It's an interpretation, I think, that fits the brief. It's not my favorite. I have to be honest, I probably would have left this off of the album. It's 4 minutes odd long. It's one of the shortest on the album. It's a way of playing the album out in some kind of, in the same way that ELP or Emerson, Lake and Palmer were very good at combining classical music, like staccatos and all this sort of thing, with their wonderful keyboard prog sounds and their guitars. This is the opposite for me. I feel that this is a little bit of, look, I'm glad they love their origins of their music, and obviously they're classically trained and enjoy to want to bring to the world the name of a long forgotten composer to the world. I mean, he's probably not forgotten amongst classical music lovers, but people like me, plebs in the street, never have heard of him. Now, brilliant that they bring that and add that kind of orchestral, funereal, church sort of pomposity and leitmotif-esque music to the metal. I just found it a little bit, and it's one of the ones that if I was going to skip a track, it would probably be that. Now, this may be heritage. This what heritage? What are you talking about, Tony? This may be heretical to say it to Candlemass fans. I just don't enjoy it. As I said, it's mainly all killer, no filler. I don't think this is filler because it's at the end and it's not the final thing if you have the special edition. I just don't really enjoy it. I'm not sure why it needs to be there. It's in the DNA. It has their DNA. It's thoughtful. It's begging to be added to a Doom style album because of if this is an exact copy of, and I don't know, this is guessing, if it is a note for note reproduction of the piece of music, but in modern, with the modern instruments, with a little bit of twist here and there, then it is wonderful and it sits in the album well. I just don't understand quite sure why it's there. And I'm sure if any of those you died in the war Candlemass fans who are listening to this show can reach out, and if you have listened so far, to reach out and tell me, I would absolutely love to know, because I just don't understand why it's there. And I know there are people there shaking their fists at me and gnashing their teeth and going, "You don't do your research." Well, I did my research and I couldn't find much else about it, to be honest. Anyway, then we move on to the bonus track, the Black Sabbath medley. Now, if I was ever going to choose a lead singer to take over from Ozzy, outside of the ones that have already been wonderfully there, and my favourites, as in, Tony Martin and Dio and all those, I think Messiah Marcolin would have done an absolutely bang-up, top-notch, wonderful, drool-inducing, ticket-selling, member-throbbing quality to the Sabbath oeuvre. This is a medley that I've read somewhere people say why. I would say why. I would rather probably take off epistle number 81 and put on this instead. Now, I'm sure that's going to cause arguments. I like it because it shows a little bit of their influence. I like it because a lot of metal bands did do covers. Maiden have done them. Everyone's done them. But this sort of idea of doing a medley sort of made me smile and just ends the album with a familiarity. We've gone through 48 odd minutes of if you've never heard the album before, of quite a soul dragging, heavy, monotonous album with moments of lightness in it, like listen to Wagner or any of those sort of German, you know, sort of neoclassical orchestral pieces, you come out the other side and go, oh God. Then this comes on, and there's a little bit of familiarity, and suddenly you're singing along, and you're enjoying. We know it's not Sabbath. We know that. We're quite well aware that it's not Sabbath, but it has a little bit of nod back to influences, I like to always say. Okay. Now the tracks that they do cover are we've got Symptoms of the Universe, Sweet Leaf, Sabbath Bloody Sabbath, Into the Void, Electric Funeral, Supernaut, and Black Sabbath. It runs for 6 minutes, not 16 minutes, Tony, whatever, 6 minutes 14 seconds. As I said, it's only available on streaming or on the CD release. It wasn't on the vinyl release, to my knowledge. I've got the vinyl release and it's not on there unless I've got a weird, odd version of it. Now, I really love the way this ends. And I think it's something that just takes you on that final note of Black Sabbath where, Messiah's really, you can feel the love in the room on this medley. Now, I believe this medley comes about because live, they would often do warm-ups. They would do Black Sabbath medleys backstage to warm up and to close shows and things like that. And they, they would have cut their teeth listening to bands like that and playing to Black Sabbath, as all of us did. Okay. You can say you didn't, but we know you did. You can look at us in the eye and say, we never played Black Sabbath covers. Yes, you did. And I absolutely know you did, because we all did. And so it ends on a high. Takes you from the true doom, heavy, soul-gnawing, brain-crushing voids of doom to this sort of nod back to influence, and you can see where it comes from. You can see where the riffs were born, because a lot of the riffs do have a Tony Iommi feel to them. They do have heritage and DNA and comparisons to something that, say, Tony would have produced. So why not put that in there? Why not show the world this is where we come from? Particularly an album like this, where they're probably really proud of it. And I know they said that they hated the production of it and it was rushed to get out for the American tour. Yeah, I get that. A lot of bands will say that because this is their art. This is the thing they love and live with. I personally, as an audience listener, as a fan of the band, when I go onto this album, I don't think it sounds that way. I just feel it has, yes, to modern ears, it could be denser, it could be darker, it could be more compact. If you want to be that way, it could be more funereal, it could be dirgier, it could have a dirtier sound, a more, and maybe Messiah's vocals not as clean, as punctuated as they are. But I think that would take away from what charm it does have, and it has charm, what charm it has, or what you perceive as charm, it would take it away, I feel. I think we'd lose that sense of on the borders, that sense of wild boundaries being kicked down and armies invading the sunny uplands of traditional music, if you know what I mean. Anyway, that's enough of me rambling on to this week. I absolutely love this album. I hope that you do go and listen to it. Trying, if you can, get a physical copy of it, because it sounds better on vinyl by a long way than it does in streaming, but most of us will now stream. And I suppose by streaming or plugging your CD in, you are going to get that extra track. So, enough for me. Bye for now. I hope you love it. I absolutely love Ancient Dreams. As I said, I'm critical about it because I love it so much. There are things about it I love, there are things about it I don't like. And I'm sure that you will have the same thing. So, stay tuned to next week. Something exciting is coming for the next episode. But before then, please like, subscribe, join Patreon if you can. $2 a month, ad-free streams. And, leave a comment, because it helps other people find the show. And I'd love other people to listen in, just so that we can take more of this wonderful journey that I'm on and we're on to a wider audience. Anyway, bye for now. Talk to you next week. Ta-ta.
In honor of Military Appreciation Month, Verizon thought of a lot of different ways we could show our appreciation, like rolling out the red carpet, giving you your own personal marching band, or throwing a bumping shindig. At Verizon, we're doing all that in the form of special military offers. That's why, this month only, we're giving military and veteran families a $200 Verizon gift card and a phone on us, with a select trade-in and a new line on select unlimited plans. Think of it as our way of flying a squadron of jets overhead while launching fireworks. Now that's what we call a celebration, because we're proud to serve you. Visit your local Verizon store to learn more. $200 Verizon gift card requires smartphone purchase $799.99 or more with new line on eligible plan. Gift card sent within 8 weeks after receipt of claim. Phone offer requires $799.99 purchase with new smartphone line on Unlimited Ultimate or Postpaid Unlimited Plus. Minimum plan $80 a month with autopay plus taxes and fees for 36 months. Less $800 trade-in or promo credit applied over 36 months. 0% APR. Trade-in must be from Apple, Google, or Samsung. Trade-in and additional terms apply.
Memorial Day doorbuster deals are here at Lowe's. Right now, Rewards members save $80 on the Master Forge 4-burner gas grill, now just $149. Plus, Rewards members save $900 on the Lowe's exclusive Hisense French door refrigerator, now only $999. Lowe's, we help, you save. Valid through 5/26. Selection varies by location. While supplies last. See Lowe's.com for more details. Program subject to terms and conditions. Details at Lowe's.com/terms. Subject to change.